Welcome to another episode of Coaching While Black. I'm Alecia.
Armond.
And we're here to just talk about the status of women and girls in sport. Like now...
There's positives and there's negatives.
Yeah, but media coverage, all of those things, like we see there's some kind of progression and improvement when it comes to showcasing women and girls in sport. And I think people are now starting to know, like, yes, they're here, they want to compete. How can we make this more opportunities, right? And that's like the cool part about the time that we're in. There's so much excitement around it, but how do we keep it going and not have it be like just a
trend, like a flash in the pan. Yeah, how do you maintain this momentum that women's sports has? Is it money? Do we throw more money at the problem and hope that that sticks? You know what I mean? Is it coaching? Is it like, do we catch them where we interact with them, you know, in that youth phase? And hopefully that's, you know, where the answer lies, you know what I mean? Because I have two young daughters, 7 and 5, who they're not in sports yet, but like, honestly, Alecia, I'm worried. Yeah. Like there is a real nervousness bordering on paralysis that makes me like, I don't know if I want you to play sports or at least be in this organized system that has clearly been detrimental for young girls and young black girls in particular.
Yeah, and when it comes to your like hesitation and nervousness, is it like you're thinking the quality of coaches that's out there?
Yeah.
Is it like
quality of coaches and like the space and like their general experience going in? Because I remember, and maybe it's not like this today, but it feels like it hasn't changed much. You know, girls were not afforded the same space and opportunities that men were, and I took it for granted because it just, like Generation Z and the internet, that's just the way the world was when I came into it. And so, like, it's really tough for me to first be aware of it, that, you know, I do possess this bias that leads me to sort of exclude women in a lot of places where I don't mean to. But two, like, how do I make way for my young daughters if they have interest in this? And even if they do, like, do I let them go forward into this space where, you know, a lot of girls come out, body issues, mental issues, like just things that are weighing down the rest of their life.
And definitely finding those kind of programs that have those coaches that are intentional about, okay, what are the things that we need to do to make sure we keep girls into the sport and being intentional about their care and interest, and knowing that a lot of them have that like behind start. Like they didn't just, their parents were like, yeah, let's get you in the sport, right? That natural nudge to get them in, and being able to have coaches that's patient with the girls that's coming because they probably haven't started, they're starting late, they haven't had that experience, they haven't been able to grow those skills. So what does that look like for those coaches? And I know that's important for me as a coach, right? Like coaching middle schoolers, having that patience and knowing that some of these girls that's 12 and 13, they haven't had a lot of experiences playing sport in a competitive level, and it's just been entry. And that those fears that parents do have of like, I don't want to put them in environments where I'm trying to get them into it, and all of a sudden now they don't want to do it because they had that bad experience with coaches, right?
Yeah.
And we know that with the girls and just in general, the connection that the young people have with their coaches is really important, right? And being intentional, and even if you're not like a female coach coaching girls, but still as a male coach being able to keep those things in mind when it comes to, okay, how am I making sure I'm creating a safe space for my girls? And was that something like when you were coaching girls, I know you coach boys now, but when you were coaching girls, was there anything like you were intentionally doing that you
Absolutely.
Felt like,
okay, I mean, even with my own girls, there are things that I'm very like aware of.
Yeah.
The way my voice and tone comes off, I'm very, very focused on. The way my body looks when I need to have like a hard or even scary conversation. Like I'm trying to be really cognizant of the fact that if I'm standing over you and like being really big about this moment, you're gonna be spending most of your energy hiding rather than listening. And so like, how do I navigate? Like with my partner, I tell her like, you know, this isn't the time to teach this lesson. Like I'm not in the space, you're not in the space, they're not in the space. Like this isn't, how do we maintain, this isn't all that stuff. So like, it's really interesting, especially with young girls. Like the other part is when they do get interested in sports, you know, when I grew up, I can only think of one woman who was my coach in my entire sports experience. And she was my coach when I was a child. And I feel like that's normally when women are like invited to coaches, when the stakes aren't high, when the kids are really young and just still like having fun. And it's almost like a babysitter's experience. But like now as I'm coaching, and my girls are getting into sports, and I see there's no women coach, but I'm like, I don't want to step into this space because I want them to have the experience. I want a woman to have the chance to coach and be in this space, but then no woman steps up and they get left with random dad.
Yeah, and that's that confidence. At our school, the parents can coach the younger grades, so like 4th through 5th grade, and then they get outside coaches for 6th, 7th, and 8th. And a lot of the parents do express, or our moms express that, well, I do want to do it, but I just want to make sure I do it correctly. I don't want to benefit. And it's just that confidence piece. And that's why one of the things that we've been trying to, and I think I've heard of like this challenge of like, for youth sports, we try to get extra assistance, even if you don't need it, just so people can get their feet wet and comfortable with just being a part of the coaching like team and get confident in it, so then they will want to step up. And I do think those intentionalities around like the moms of like, it's okay, it doesn't matter if you make, and then some moms are really more qualified than some of the dads.
Right.
And they're just like, well, the dad want to do it, he'll let it do it. I'm like, no, can you do it?
Please.
And it's like, how do we encourage the moms and just other coaches in general, because it is important for girls to be able to see other female coaches, because the little things, and then again, it's not just privy to just the female coaches, but there's things that we can keep in mind. Like I carry lotion, edge control, the good practices, right? Extra headbands, like things that you would think, like, you wouldn't even think about.
Absolutely.
But in my coaching bag, outside of a first
let me just say, certainly not from a man perspective, like there's no way I would have ever considered bringing lotion or like
all those
these things that matter.
Yeah, like getting ready for the game. If they're asking, it's the whole thing. Or if they don't feel ready, they're like, hey, what can I, coach, you got this? And I'm like, okay, I need a headband, the pop, okay, we got this, you need this. And like little things like that. And normalizing it, because there's things that the male coach can do that as well.
Right, exactly.
And that just helps normalize things, whether it's like other things like pads and make sure they have sports bras, like things that make them feel confident and comfortable playing those sports. And I think, again, there's natural things that women coaches will know, like, hey, this is something that maybe I struggle with and this is something to do. But then also I think for male coaches, and like you were saying, being intentional about, now I'm going to do all these things because this is what I'm looking for. And I think that's what's important to keeping them in. And like thinking about, what are your hopes? Like, the landscape, I know your daughters aren't ready yet, but what are you hoping that gets done before they get in there?
That is a good question. Honestly, one of the things that I do feel, and it's not just the nature of our job, but I do feel like coaches are just thrown out there with no regard for like competencies on how to do this right. They make the easy math that if I played the sport, I can teach the sport. And we've learned, and other people who have gone through and dealt with coaches like that have learned that just because you know the thing does not make you qualified to teach the thing. So I just hope like more coaches are qualified. And, this is a new one, just listening, like having the opportunity, I don't know how to express this, and the idea of like learning more about what it is to be a woman. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, and the idea of like, my girls are gonna grow up and there are many things that it will remain a mystery to me because one, I have no reference for it from a personal standpoint. Two, I didn't know it was important because, nobody taught me that, it was this important, X, Y, Z. And three, will I be invited into this world even if I do try to step forward?
Yeah, and I think that's the important part, right, of being able to be willing to have those uncomfortable situations and conversations and being like, hey, Dad don't know these things, but I'm here to help you through these things as much as I can.
Right.
Because, again, there are certain things you can't and don't know, and, haven't experienced. But being able to have that where that environment is set. And I think that's what happens with like male coaches or male PE teachers. Like growing up in high school, you'll say something about your period and they'll be like, okay, I don't care.
Right.
But it's like you teach health and those kind of things. So it's really just for male coaches to make themselves available and asking those important questions, but then also knowing like you're not gonna know and be able to relate to everything, but just being able to say that to them and be that person and to be like somebody to help them feel like, hey, this is normal. You don't have to worry about that, and we're not judging you. I think that's what like young people or young girls are looking for. Because there's too many times where they've probably experienced those males in their lives. Like, okay, go to your mom, or hey, go
Honestly,
find
like,
a nurse, or go find a male. Like, you know.
And I feel bad because I
just,
definitely, you know, my wife came home the other day and was like, hey, we brought Olivia her first, like, they're not sports bras, but like it's practice is what she called it. And like inside, I screamed. Are we there yet? Yeah, like I just could not. But also, it was like we were entering a space where it was like I have zero experience except like my experience, which is definitely personal and not what you're looking to like share with your daughter. So it's like, we're reaching the stage where like my daughters are moving into the stage in their lives where the line between woman and man has been clearly drawn. And now I need to be very aware and cognizant of like, you need to cross over this boundary that has been set by society, by your own past, by whatever. But like, oh my God, so Olivia, what do you think about your new practice thing?
Yeah. Hype her up like I see.
Right, and it's, I mean, and it's tough.
Yeah, and then even when that initial like, oh my goodness, we're here, but then in front of her, like, hey.
In front of her, like, yes.
Like, how you feel about it? And again, like those experiences, because if it could have went left and being like, wait, you don't need this, and she's like, wait, what? And then that experience.
Leave her confused.
Like,
Leave her absolutely getting mixed signals.
Yeah, that's definitely important. And yeah, that's super, that's yeah. But yeah, thinking about just as coaches and working with girls, but just being a female coach, it is just thinking about how do we keep young girls in sport? How do we keep them in spaces where they feel safe and comfortable? And again, they feel so comfortable where they just stay and like try to perfect whatever they're trying to do, but never, as me as a coach, my goal is to never have a girl quit because of her experience.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's just one of my biggest goals.
That breaks your heart.
Yeah, it's just like, how can I keep you engaged? How can I keep you here? However your role is, even if you don't want to play basketball or whatever sport it is, future-wise or down the line, how do we continue to keep them in? And I'm excited about the status of where we are with girls in sports and the recognition that we're getting and the money that's being put towards women and girls in sports. And I think if we keep doing that and keep going in that direction, it's going to be where we don't have to guess like where girls are and like they don't have to try to search and really find those role models. They're there.
They're there.
This is the first time my basketball team, they love like Paige Becker is one of the in UConn. They're using those examples of a female athlete. Before, it was like pulling teeth.
It was
like,
you had to search, you had to scour.
Like, who do y'all watch? And, you know, and now
and not that they didn't exist. It's just like they weren't media front.
So being able to keep that going, I'm excited. And I'm excited about you and your girls. And,
it's going to be a wild ride for sure. It's going to be a wild ride, but we're looking forward to it, and hopefully everybody comes out better. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Even if I get to step up and coach them at some point, notwithstanding what it's like to coach your own kid.
Yeah.
But like, I'll be happy if I can provide a better experience for young ladies because of what I've learned and from the people like you who I have in my life, then so much the better.
Yeah, definitely. Most definitely. Awesome. Well, thank you all for another episode of Coaching While Black. Please check out more episodes. Thanks.